start recording. There we go. So ionic is made from metal and non-metal. Covalent is made from non-metal plus non-metal. Okay. And if you've done quiz one was the ionic compounds. Okay. If you've done quiz two was the covalent compounds. If you've not done either quiz one or quiz two, you'll be finishing those up today. Okay. Now, if you know the difference between the two naming systems, I would like you to explain it to your partner. What is the difference between the two naming systems? Yes. Yes. Okay. What's the difference? What do we do differently when we name covalent compounds and when we name ionic compounds? Yes. Prefixes. So one of these two uses prefixes and the other one does not. Do you remember which one uses prefixes, ionic or covalent? Covalent. So covalent uses yes prefixes, yes prefixes, and also metalloids. We'll talk about those in just a moment, okay? And then for our metal plus non-metal, that would be no prefixes. So when you come to do quiz number 3, you will have some ionic compounds, some covalent compounds, and you'll have to decide, is it ionic? And you'll be able to tell that most easily just by looking for a metal. If you see a metal, there's not going to be another metal. It's just going to be a metal plus something. You'll know that you have ionic. Okay, that's the easiest way to look for it. So you got to recognize whether the compound is ionic or molecular/covalent. You also need to make sure that you have memorized your prefixes, because if you keep writing penta and you mean hexa, you're going to lose marks for that, right? So make sure you've memorized those. If you have trouble with memorizing things and you need a list, let me know. I can provide one for you, okay? Recognize whether it's ionic or molecular. Obviously, I've made a boo-boo here. Where is my boo-boo? Can you see it? What have I done wrong? Ionic, metal plus metal. What should it be? Metal plus non-metal. Yours says non-metal in your book? Oh, that's because I stole this from last year, because it's extra work to go and print these all out into OneNote again. So I stole last year's and just imported it. Okay. Now, metalloids, and if you look up on that periodic table up there near the clock, what color are the metalloids? They are purple. So the metalloids generally behave like nonmetals when they are bonding. So if I have a metalloid, it behaves like a nonmetal. And if I have another metalloid, it behaves like a non-metal. So if I have things that are behaving like nonmetal plus nonmetal, what type of bonding is that?
Okay.
That is covalent bonding. So we get a covalent compound. And I'd like to know, do we use prefixes?
Yes.
Covalent, do we use prefixes? Yes. If we have a metalloid plus a nonmetal, remember metalloids behave like nonmetals, so that would be like having a nonmetal and a nonmetal. And if we have nonmetal plus nonmetal, that would be what kind of bonding, Andre? If we had nonmetal plus nonmetal, what type of bonding would that be?
Non-metal plus non-metal.
Yes. That would be what?
Non-metal and non-metal would be
Ionic? Covalent. Okay? Covalent. So, do we use prefixes or do we use no prefixes?
Yeah.
Prefixes? Yes or no? Yes. And if we have a metal plus a metalloid, metal plus metalloid, that's like a metal plus a non-metal. And so that would be what type of bonding? Ionic. So we would have an ionic compound. And do ionic compounds use prefixes?
No.
No. And apparently I cannot spell prefixes because I wrote prefixes. Prefixes, there we go. I fixes my prefixes. Okay. So even though we've done this, we're going to reiterate it. If it is ionic, what's the fastest way to tell if something is ionic? It starts with a metal. And if it starts with a metal, do you use prefixes?
No.
No. If it's covalent, it will not start with a metal. It'll start with a nonmetal, and you're going to use prefixes. And this is just a quick review of covalent naming, because some of you haven't done quiz 2 yet, and even like quiz 3, you'll want to remember. On the first word in covalent naming, you should always have a prefix unless the prefix is 1, mono. So on the first word, should you always have a prefix or almost always? Almost always. Which one do we not use on the first word? Mono. On the second word, should we always have a prefix or almost always? Always. So the first word, almost always, but don't use mono. On the second word, you should always have a prefix including mono. Okay? So no mono on the first word, but yes, mono on the second word. All the other prefixes always on both words. Don't forget, if you have oxygen or oxide, you will drop the O or the A. So rather than pentaoxide, it's going to become pentoxide. Rather than monoxide oxygen, it's going to become monoxide. How about trioxide? Should we get rid of the I? No, leave the tri alone. How about if we had iodide? Would we get rid of the O? No, leave it alone. Okay? Which word endings do we change? The second word always changes to ide. So silicon dioxide. Doesn't matter, that one's covalent. Second word changes to ide. Silver chloride, that one is ionic. That ending changes to ide. So that's the second word. How about the first word? Does the first word ending change? No. If you think sodide sounds great, you need to work on making it so it doesn't sound great to you, okay? So, no sodides, no diphosphide, monofluoride. The first word, there's no ide. Okay? So that little review should get you through quiz number 2. If you have not done any practice for quiz number 2, make sure you practice for it beforehand, because not practicing is a good way to get a bad mark. Okay? What you're going to do for this one is you're going to decide if it is molecular. Actually, I think I might change this for next year. I think I might make a C for covalent, because M looks like M for metal, and that becomes confusing for people. So let's make that C for covalent. Or I for ionic. And then you're going to write the name. If it's ionic, no prefixes. If it is covalent, yes prefixes. So the goal today is for most people to finish up to and including quiz number 3. But if you don't get quiz number 3 done today, you can do it sort of first thing next day after our little mini lesson on quiz 4. Okay? So you're aiming to try to get through quiz 3 today if you can. If you absolutely cannot do it, that's okay. You can do quiz 3 tomorrow. Everyone should have quiz 2 done by today at the latest. Okay? You can do it. You can do it. Quiz 2 is all covalent, so it's all prefixes all the time. Okay?
What was the quiz on?
Huh?
Oh my God. Follow up and didn't do well.
Oh, that's like 1B. So if you did well on 1A, you do not need to do 1B.
I was afraid of ammonia. Buddy, I got a hunch.
And you guys can listen for your name, because I got some older quizzes to get back to you.
Bro, cyanide.
Nevea. There we go. Chloe's not here. Chloe's not here. Cash is not here. Tristan's not here. Chloe's not here. Cash is not here. Cash is not here. Cash is not here. Chloe's not here. And that one I'm just gonna, Jan, this is just the enriched from test number 2.
So what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
Oh, you're done. Alex, guess what Should I try quiz 4? Should I try to do all the quizzes?
Yeah, so I'm trying. Rayhan was like, oh my god.
Shot. They said
Oh,
this point, he's saying that he enjoys small.
I think he did.
let me see.
There you go.
You got 4.5. Oh, look at you go. Yeah, that's what you got.
Oh, the white prediction. Milan has a lot of white predictions. I think Milan
Yes. So it is
yeah. Milan, that's how high
4.1a. So we go to page 10. All this is just like reference stuff. So what you'll do is you'll say,
Okay, so
I have
basically-
lithium, I have hydrogen, so I just name it lithium hydride. I have sodium, I have fluorine, sodium fluoride. That's it. Quiz number 1 is like the easiest quiz in the world. Okay, so if you want to practice a little bit, you can. But you can also just write the quiz and do this.
Okay.
Just really
Wait,
helpful.
hold on.
Okay. Yeah.
I got you. Only John. Okay, John. Okay, John.
Right there.
John.
George.
Like last 2 weeks.
Why did not do that?
Wait. Oh no. Yes. Jacob, what do you do? I honestly have no idea what this is. Yeah, I don't know what to do.